Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for allowing me to testify today. At the beginning of this year, I sponsored and introduced Senate Bill 1 as part of a three-bill package to repeal prevailing wage in Michigan. Senate Bill 1 specifically removes prevailing wage law from the list of applicable laws with which schools must comply. Repeal of prevailing wage has been one of my top legislative priorities since I was first elected to the legislature and as far back as when I served as a township official. And many of the projects in the district I represented as state representative have incurred additional costs and financing costs based on this law. Now, labor costs typically account for 25% of an overall construction project, some more, some less, and prevailing wage based solely on examining union wages results in inflation between 40 to 60% in these labor costs. As a result, overall construction price of a government-funded project is inflated somewhere between 10 and 15%. An example, assume a private sector project costs $1 million to build, and about $250,000 of that being labor costs. For a government-funded project, the labor cost would be somewhere near $400,000, or at 60% markup, resulting in the overall cost rising to $1,150,000, which is 15% higher than a private sector project with non-union rates. And just to point out a couple of facts, over 80% of the construction workers don't belong to any type of union. According to the U.S. Department of Labor, more than 11,000 jobs were added to Michigan's payroll as a direct result of the suspension of the prevailing wage law between December 94 and June 1997. And 18 other states don't have prevailing wage laws. When we talk about the impact of prevailing wage, we really are talking about state contracts and projects, and more specifically, we're talking about our schools. Prevailing wage has the greatest impact on school construction costs. In 2013, the Anderson Economic Group concluded that repealing prevailing wage would have saved Michigan's universities, community colleges, and school districts more than $200 million a year. While we say it's saving the schools the money, it's the taxpayers who pay that money for the schools. They are saving the money. During a short window when prevailing wage was not enforced due to a federal litigation, a study by Dr. Richard Vedder, professor of economics at Ohio University, found that the labor costs on school district construction projects were on average 10 to 16% lower than contracts predicated on union wages. So I believe that repealing prevailing wage will result in millions of taxpayer dollars being saved. A less expensive price tag for construction means our communities are financing less, saving taxpayers money over the life of that asset. And I just want to dwell on the financing piece for just a moment. If additional costs are incurred and it's financed by the public with a bond over 30 years, they're paying interest expense on that added cost, which adds to it. And those of us with a mortgage know when you start it with a higher number, your costs are much higher at the end if you fully pay for the bond. So in conclusion, my main reason for sponsoring the legislation and championing the repeal of this prevailing wage law in Michigan is I don't think that taxpayers should have to pay more for their buildings than the private industry does. Simply as said as it can be. We have an opportunity to save taxpayers dollars, and it is an opportunity worth taking. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and stand ready to take any questions.